Hey, what's up? The Parent Trap Podcast is back. I know we've been gone a while, but listen, let bygones be bygones, okay? We ain't doing no explanation. We ain't doing all that. We practicing self-care and just moving forward. Cool. Bow. Here we are. So, we are overdue just to have a chat with our parents. You know, it has been a long year. 2020 really handed it to us. And you know what? Holy Spirit was like, girl, you need to do this homeschool episode. All I've been seeing is posts about parents and school, whether that's online or school at home. And yes, there's a difference between school at home and homeschool. We'll break that down in a second. So with all the craziness going on in our parenting world, I told you I was a trap, right? This trap just got real sticky. We are coming to you with our series on homeschool. Yes, so the next few episodes will be about homeschool. Maybe 4, maybe 5, who knows? Whatever the Lord wants to do, we just going with the flow, all right? So the first episode is titled, What is this? Because I'm sure that's something every parent has said in the past 5 months. What is this? What is this? Whether it's pertaining to schoolwork, whether it's pertaining to curriculum, whether it's pertaining to just education in general, what is this? But we want to be real specific and we want to define what is this pertaining to homeschool. So first, school at home is just public school education at home, meaning you're going through the curriculum that's set by whatever local or national government standards or school district you in, and you're doing that at home. Now, homeschool is completely different. You know what? Let me give y'all a definition of homeschool. And it says, this is from Wikipedia, but y'all know, we the internet generation. We gonna go with it. Homeschooling, also known as home education, is the education of children at home or a variety of places other than school. Home education is usually conducted by a parent, tutor, or online teacher. Many families use less formal ways of educating. So, although school at home, your teacher is online, but it's very different just having a class that's set up online than a public school education online, because as the definition said, it uses less formal ways of educating. So less formal ways meaning like instead of going through a textbook chapter, it may have you explore different things in your community. Like for science, you would explore nature or find a local trail or just do much hands-on thing. It's almost like an extended field trip. So homeschool is very different, and I want you guys to understand that going through your textbook curriculum is designed for a teacher to teach a group of kids, and doing non-traditional things at home it is usually designed to cater to that specific child. So there's a general format, there's a general delivery that you do when you're a teacher that is in class. But when you are at home, you do something that caters to just that child. And we'll talk about that in the next episode, identifying your child's learning style, because you do it to cater to their specific learning style. All right. So now that we got that clear, this is not going to be about school at home. There'll probably be an episode about school at home, but this one is specifically about homeschool, to teach you guys about homeschool, because it's an option that we don't really explore, especially in minority communities, because we don't know a lot about it. And then people tell us, oh, don't homeschool because it'll hinder your child socially and other things like that, when that is not true. I know a lot of people, by the way, let me back up before I talk about what I know. I have homeschooled. I'm an educator. I have a degree in early childhood education, and I've worked in education for the past 8 years, whether that's elementary through college. I'll talk about that in a previous episode. Blah. So I also homeschooled my son for about 2 months in 3rd or 4th grade, but I just was too busy. I couldn't keep up with it. But I homeschooled him again in 6th grade for half the year. And it was great. It was awesome. It's to the point where he's like, Mom, if we ain't going back to school, can you just homeschool me again? Because I really only, want to go because of sports and just to hang out with my friends, but I'm cool with homeschooling. So a lot of the myths are that one, your kid won't get the same social components. Well, we're very involved in church. We have a great neighborhood with kids and families that he hangs out with, and he does sports. And then also, it's 2020. Homeschool communities are phenomenal. I am in so many Facebook groups. There's a melanated homeschool group. There is a homeschool group for the curriculum I use. There's a homeschool group for just people in Wisconsin. And I'm sure whatever city you guys are in, there's a homeschool group for them. And there are like district homeschool hubs, I'm going to call them. I don't know the name for them. I'm going to just say hubs. We're going to go with hubs. So these homeschool hubs, they have field trips once a month. They have different sports leagues that they create on their own, which are diverse in age, or you can play sports at the school that's locally or whatever. And then they have different meetups. Like, there's a whole community of homeschooling. The internet has brought us so much closer together, and I think it's phenomenal. So don't believe the myths, don't believe the hype. I find that kids that are homeschooled communicate just the same. They may not have the same experiences of like the school drama, and y'all know how it be, but to be honest, who could have done without? Most of the time we spend our time, our adulthood, detoxing ourselves from the school drama we went through in middle and high school. And let's not even get on bullying and cyberbullying and all that's going on. And not that we make decisions out of fear, but to be honest, we can do without over these ways. But I just want to let y'all know that that's like the biggest stigma with homeschool, and it doesn't have to exist with you, because to be honest, up until this school year, my son never hung with kids at school, outside of school anyway, and schools nowadays can be so strict because kids lack so much discipline that they don't have much time to socialize. So that's not even a huge factor. All right, now off to the homeschooling process. I just think these are some, this podcast episode is going to be more informative than anything. I know other things have been conversational and, you know, life experiences. It'll be a little bit of experiences. However, this is really informative, and I want to tell you guys a few things before getting started with homeschool to help make your decision better. And I'm going to go over two things, and it's a term called unschooling and deschooling. So, if you are transitioning from public school to homeschool, I suggest doing a process called deschooling and then going into unschooling. So, deschooling is a term invented by a guy named Ivan. He's somebody prominent, somebody super educated. Google deschooling, he gonna come up. Okay. This guy Ivan, he explained it as the shift from traditional government influenced institution of schooling to a less restricted method of learning that focuses on being educated by one's natural curiosities. So let me just put that in short for y'all. It's going from a system of textbook education to a system of personalized education. Like, what do you want to learn today? So it is designed, what it did for me and my son. And I learned about deschooling in a lot of these homeschool groups. People were like, oh, you need to do, because it was so hard to get him to just focus on the work. He just had all this anxiety about it. And everybody was like, oh, you need to deschool first. I'm like, what the heck is that? And what they explained to me in layman's terms is show him, it's kind of a way to help him relax and show him that learning is a normal everyday thing and not an assignment. For example, during our deschooling process, Kevin Hart got this documentary on Netflix about Black History. It happened to be right before Black History Month. And of course, I wanted to start him off. That was a perfect time for me to start off with Black History and continue Black History the whole year, because you know. But instead of us going through textbooks and reports, I'm like, hey, Marty, let's just watch this documentary. And we just watched the documentary. I didn't tell him it was a part of an assignment. I didn't tell him anything. I was just like, oh. Then afterwards, I'm like, dang, did you learn anything? He was like, yeah. And started telling me all this stuff he learned. And it's a very great documentary. Just search it on Netflix. Kevin Hart, it should pop up. Forgot the name of it, but, you know, might put it in the show notes. So afterwards, I'm asking him some things that he learned and some people. And about some of the people that were in the documentary, and he gave me some great feedback. And I said, guess what? You just completed your first history assignment. And he was like, what? Yeah. Learning is an everyday thing. Learning is it's not an assignment. It's something you do in everyday life. And as an adult, we take on that component of learning in our everyday life when it comes to different things we want to do. But we introduce children to learning in a formal way. So they only attach learning to being in school instead of in their everyday life. And the process of deschooling really helped me to gauge differently with my child to where everything could be a learning experience. Like us going to the grocery store, I can give him a budget and say, hey, you can get this many items, or you can spend this dollar amount, and then see how he does and make that into either a critical thinking lesson or a math lesson and things like that. And you just make every day about learning. And what it really does is give them a love for learning, because they're able to personalize learning to where it's not a task, but it's just a life skill. All right. So that's deschooling. I recommend doing that for a week or two, depending on your child, and just allowing informal, everyday activities that you don't tell them are a part of learning, but you're just having them do. And then in the end, you're giving them a grade for how you analyze or how you assess what they learned. Okay, so that's deschooling. The second thing is unschooling. Unschooling is an approach to home education is based on learning through living rather than through the conventions of school. So it's very similar to deschooling, but it's more strategic. You actually plan it out. So deschooling is just a process you do in the beginning, and unschooling is how you set up your learning approach. So after we went through deschooling, it was more planned out, and it was like, hey, let's do this. Our math lesson for the day is going to be this. Our reading lesson for the day is going to be this. And you just set those expectations for your schedule, but you allow the child to navigate on their own, like what time they're going to do it, how much time they're going to spend on it, and you let them make it personal. So I'm going to give an example. I don't know if y'all watched the show On My Block. So On My Block, it's on Netflix too. Super dope show. I want to say it's on season 3, might be season 2, but I'm going to roll with season 3. But there's this girl who just pops up at the school, and she's eyeing one of the main characters, Jamal. And eventually they end up connecting, exchanging numbers. She went on a date with him. And this is my disclaimer, because I know y'all Christians is watching. I do not condone sex before marriage. I do not condone this situation. But this is an example for the purpose of teaching about unschooling. So, baby girl talking to Jamal, they hitting it off. Jamal a teenager, so Jamal like, dang, I want to pursue this girl in a different way. She's giving me, these vibes, these sexual vibes. They ended up doing whatever. Rated R, your kids might be listening. Blah. But in the end, she started asking Jamal all these questions and taking notes. And he like, what is going on? And it turned out that she was doing a sex education class. And instead of reading books about it or different things like that, she experienced things that she was learning about. Touche. Don't recommend that one. But what I'm saying, I just gave that as an example to say that unschooling is a part of their life's experiences, where they're not reading a book about something, where they're not going through lessons about something, but they're indulging their life in something in order to learn about it. And of course, we know we can't do that with every subject, but the ones you can, definitely do it. And the ones that you can't, be a little textbook oriented. However, this is great for kinesthetic learners, which you'll learn about in our next episode, which are learners that do, that you can create things for them to do to build on their education, to help them learn at a level where it's appropriate for them to learn, where they're going to absorb it. So unschooling, is just an approach to learning where you do systems and assignments that are around them, physically involving themselves instead of reading about it. So yeah, I think that those two things are important for you to explore with jumping into homeschool. And definitely do deschooling. But if unschooling is a curriculum you want to go with, and what a curriculum style that you want to go with, and it is suitable for your child, which it was for mine, go with it. And some people will look at you like, oh, this isn't traditional, it isn't conducive, but it's honestly, the world we live in today is very different from the world that we lived in when the education system was built. And I do believe that our kids will be okay if they learn through experience. They will be okay. All right, let me just summarize these two topics. Deschooling is basically a student-led approach to learning, meaning whatever they're curious about learning, you allow them to learn in a hands-on way. Unschooling is where you set the tone, but you don't necessarily control how they do it. You allow them to explore it personally, but you still have a little more strategy behind it. And I feel like deschooling is temporary and homeschool is like an ongoing process of what you choose to lead your curriculum. All right, so just gonna recap. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. I wanted to make it short and sweet because of course it's informational and that's not all that entertaining. But we started off with homeschool versus school at home and just defining what homeschool is for you, and talking about some of the myths of homeschool, why people don't homeschool, and some of the stigmas people say. And then the process of getting into homeschool, which is deschooling and unschooling. And if you have any questions beyond the things we've discussed on this podcast, feel free to send me a message. If I don't know, we can find out together. I will post some resources in the show notes. And guys, don't forget to tune in to our next episode, which will be on learning style. Because before selecting a curriculum, before committing to what you're going to teach your child and how you're going to teach them, you need to know their learning style. So I will, in our next episode, dive right into that. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Parent Trap podcast. And remember, parenting is a whole trap. Don't do it. Have a great day.